All right, Dave, it is Wednesday. We are back. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
CR, it is great to be with you again.
Wait a minute, Dave. You sound different. What's going
Yeah,
on?
I promise I have not taken up smoking. This is not my smoker voice. It's we've had so many meetings, we've had so many webinars going on. It's the end of the year. We're trying to meet with as many people as we can. And then I went to the basketball game last night and yelled my head off. And now I'm sitting here this morning going, "This is not the Dave Hall voice that all of you have become accustomed to."
Yeah. Well, Dave, we're just glad you're here. I think it's so exciting that you're able to join us every week and talk about retirement. That's the one thing we absolutely love. And Dave, again, why do we go into retirement? Why do we dive into all these topics, especially Social Security, Medicare, long-term care, Roth, anything? We just kind of dive into them. Why do we do this so much?
Because it's so important to people's future lives. It's very important that we cover that period of time in our lives. And unfortunately, most people are not prepared for it. They're not putting the time in that they need to understand the choices that they should make now to prepare themselves for the future.
And Dave, this is a special show. I mean, obviously, we have lots of webinars. I mean, you have over 20 different webinars that you're currently doing, and you're meeting with clients all the time, and you're just really diving into the retirement aspect. But one of the things I wanted to kind of pull out with this particular live show is that we're talking all about Social Security, Medicare. Normally, it's every topic, but today we're very specific on these two topics.
Yeah, we had so many questions from our webinar earlier this week. We want to make sure we answer as many of those as we can. And two, let me apologize. I'm in a hotel room, not generally how I like to record this stuff, but I'm getting new carpet in my office at home. We had some flooding. They had to do the whole upstairs again. And by tomorrow, it should be all set. So this should be the last week, but hopefully we're back in normal area that we typically are when we do these shows.
And I want to invite all those that are with us live and those on replay. Thank you. Thank you. It's always great to have you here. And again, today we are diving into all the different questions that came in through a Social Security and Medicare webinar, Dave. And I invite you that are with us live, if you have additional questions or you have follow-up questions or questions that you may not get answered, please go ahead and put that in the chat comment and we'll do our best to squeeze those in there. And again, we want to welcome everyone here from Facebook and YouTube. And Dave, so today's going to be a little different. We usually have a good conversation we dive through, but Dave, I kind of want to do a little rapid Q&A today where I can throw as many questions, because Dave, I could probably ask you questions for the next 2 hours and still not get through all the questions we have.
That's fine. Happy to answer as much as we can with the time we have.
All right, Dave. Well, let's dive into it again. If you have questions throughout this, go ahead and get that into the chat panel and we will do our best to get those answered. All right, Dave, let's get our first question on the screen here from Larry. Larry says, my client's wife began collecting Social Security at 62, and he is now filing at his full retirement age. Just half of his benefits are what she gets monthly. Can we change hers?
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about this, Larry. So when we look at this situation, an individual claims at age 62, they're going to get a reduction of the benefits that they're entitled to off of their own work record when that happens. Now, when the second spouse files, if the spousal benefits happen to be higher than what they were receiving, they're going to get up to half of the benefits, full retirement age benefits for that spouse. But remember, since they claimed early, they're going to be reduced between the difference of what they would have gotten on their own work record at full retirement age, what they end up getting at age 62. So they're not going to get that full half. There will be a reduction there.
All right. Thank you very much. And Larry, if you are here, if you have additional questions, please go ahead and we'll continue to move forward with these questions here, Dave. All right. Some of these are a little longer, Dave. And so we're going to hope to try to squeeze all of this in. Regarding IRMA, based on 2021 income, I will have to pay the surcharge. I stopped taking paychecks September 1st this year due to my business slowing down. Can I apply for reconsideration now or wait till file in 2023?
Yeah, you can file for that to make sure that it gets put in place. And I recommend that you do, because unless you've got Roth conversions, unless you've got inheritances that are coming in, if you've got other circumstances where, again, business slows down, you stop working, you get married, you get divorced, someone passes away, so many options for you to get that reduced back down. And understand too, many people have a misconception that once they get into IRMA, it's going to stay that way for the rest of their lives. That's not the case. It's it's year by year. So if your income drops back down, you're going to have those payments for Medicare drop back down as well.
All right. Thanks so much, Dave. Let's jump over real quick over here to Facebook. We've got Deborah joining us. And she said, I know there is a dollar amount cap for Social Security payout at full retirement age.
Yes, there is. And I can't remember the exact amount for 2023. It's just under $4,000, somewhere between 3,500 and 4,000 full retirement age. Now you would have the delayed retirement credit. So at age 70, it's going to get over 4,000. But yes, because of the bend points and the fact that we do have caps on earnings that we can make and what we're going to get taxed for our Social Security, it means that we have a maximum amount that we can ever receive from the program.
And Dave, also with that, there's a follow up. Is there a cap or amount if you collect at 70?
Yes, same thing. So remember, you're going to get an 8% delayed retirement credit from full retirement age up until you're age 70. And that full retirement age this year, 66 and 4 months. Next year, it's going to go to 66 and 6 months. Keep increasing by 2-month increments till those of you born 1960 or later. Full retirement age is 67. But yes, there is a cap. Again, and it's all tied in. If you think about it, if you have wages, you have a cap on the amount of wages you have to pay Social Security on. So based upon their inflation adjustments, they're capping it out at those amounts, and with the bend points, that's what you're going to get as a top payment. Now, because of inflation, you could have that increase for COLA, but your COLA adjustments are only happening on your full retirement age amount.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Let's go over to Nisha's question, Dave. If you were, let me read it on the other side where it's a little bit larger. If you were to take spousal benefits under your spouse and later those were reduced, will it impact your benefits too?
Yeah. So what my assumption is happening here is you may have a situation where they started the benefits before full retirement age, then all of a sudden they started working at a level that it started reducing their benefits. Yours will be as well. But one thing to know, there is an option to redo your Social Security. You only have a year to do it. But if someone files and says, okay, I filed at 62, I'm getting benefits, and now as a spouse, you're getting the benefits off of there, they have a year to redo it, but they have to get your approval. So it's not something that once you start getting benefits, not like they can just say, oh, I'll stop this and not get these benefits. But now from a work standpoint, that's just going to happen. So if they go back to work, yes, your benefits could be reduced.
All right. And Dave, I want to remind everyone that, again, that's here live or on replay, that if you don't get your question in, you can always submit it at retirementriskadvisors.com/questions. And that's where you can go ahead and get a question submitted. Or again, you can just join us every week, 11 a.m. Central. We are here every Wednesday, just to make sure we get that clear. I got some questions coming in about that. All right, Dave, John is asking, are Social Security adjustments made after age 70 automatically based off your earned income, or do you have to reapply for your benefits to be recalculated?
Yeah, great question. So what he's talking about here, Social Security is based upon 35 years of earnings. So and it's the highest year. So if in your retirement you happen to still be working and your earnings are higher than any of your previous years, once the W-2, the Schedule C, the guaranteed payment, whatever it is, gets posted, they will go back and recalculate. So there's nothing you have to do. Now, keep on a lookout to make sure it does get increased, make sure that happens. But generally, there's nothing you have to do. That's going to happen automatically.
All right. Thank you so much. And let's move on to our next one here, Dave, that we have from James. When does income other than earned income affected additional Medicare taxes?
It always will. So remember, when we're talking about Social Security, earned income is what we're always applying it to because they have the income earning caps. That's how we base our benefits. Medicare, when we look at the IRMA surcharges, it includes all other income. So please don't get caught into this situation believing you can do Roth conversions, believing that you can have these large pension plans, other things that wouldn't necessarily affect your Social Security. It's going to affect your Medicare and what you pay.
All right. Thanks so much, Dave. Again, we are doing a rapid Q&A today, so we're moving a little quicker than we normally do. But again, if you have questions on these topics or another topic, again, you can always get that into our comments there on Facebook or YouTube. All right, Dave, Teresa's asking, can divorces begin piling up on previous spouses' Social Security, or do they have to wait until the ex-spouse is full retirement age?
Yeah, good question. So they have to be at least age 62. So they don't have to be at full retirement age. They just have to be at age 62. Now, obviously, you'd have to be at least age 62 as well to do that. Now, there are laws that if they have not yet started to claim, you had to have been divorced for at least 2 years. Used to be structured to where if they didn't claim, you could never get benefits. And obviously, the government's saying, we don't want to be in the middle of these marital disputes where some wealthy spouse is making a ton of money, doesn't need Social Security. And so they think I'll stick one last thing to that X as they walk out the door. I'll never let them get any benefits off my work record. So they said, okay, we're going to allow it, but you've got to be divorced for at least 2 years before we allow that to happen.
All right. Thank you so much, Dave. Let's get to my next question here. What exactly is the 2-year look back rule with regards to Medicare?
Great question. So, what it's related to is this IRMA adjustment. Again, do we have to pay more for our Medicare insurance than the average Americans having to pay? And so, when we look at the adjustments, they're saying, okay, for 2023 that we're coming into for your premiums, we're going to look back to 2021. Now, why did they do that? Because they've got to have time to be able to make all these adjustments. Your W 2 for 2021 didn't get posted until sometime in 22. They need to be able to make the adjustment. So, there's no way they could just take current earnings and do those calculations. So they said, what's the fairest way? Let's do a 2-year look back. That way we have the information and can figure out what you need to be paying.
Dave, what advice do you have for those that are maybe looking into Medicare? Because are you seeing a lot of mistakes out there or something that we need just to help people be aware of?
Yeah, we're seeing a ton of mistakes, and it's in the sign up side. Now, from a cost standpoint, even if you end up having to pay these premiums, for most people at that age, it's the cheapest form of insurance you're still going to get. I look at even at my side, I had and I'm on the exchange now. I did have Medicare for a period of 3 years because of my kidney transplant, but I'm up to $1,500 a month for myself. So even if you say, okay, based on the surcharges I would get from Medicare for making $750,000 a year, for most of you, you're still paying less for your insurance. So it's not necessarily from a cost standpoint as it is from a claiming standpoint. People miss their enrollment periods. They end up making mistakes in how their other insurance is going to interact with Medicare. And all these things become problematic over time.
Great advice, Dave. Well, let's keep moving on here. I've got this question from James. If you have a year with large investment income and you have taken Social Security at the regular retirement age, will you pay the 3.8% investment Medicare tax?
Yeah, so understand this investment Medicare tax has nothing at all to do with whether you're taking Social Security or not. There's individuals that are 20 that are paying this tax because they have enough investment income. So it was designed to basically ensure that there was extra money going into Medicare and into the government pockets to be able to help cover the various insurance costs that the government's covering at this point.
All right. Thank you so much, Dave. Let's jump down to my next one here. Let's see. Sharon, what is the best resource to find the income cliffs for IRMA?
Yeah, if you just do a quick internet search, you're going to find 20 different pages that are going to have it. Now, Medicare.gov will be one of those. You could go on there and just search what the 2023 IRMA income limits are. You're going to pull up a report that's going to show that. If you need it for previous years, it'll show that as well.
Okay. Let's get to my next one here, Dave. From James, is an inheritance not reported as income?
Yes, so that's a great question, and if I think back of when this probably came, when we were talking about it in the Medicare and we're talking about IRMA and stuff, but it really depends. Again, it's what type of investment are you inheriting? If you're inheriting real estate, generally there's not going to be a tax. If you're inheriting life insurance, there's not going to be a tax. If you've got, usually even stocks and bonds, the problem is if you have an IRA, yeah, you're paying tax. You're going to inherit it and you're going to be paying a bunch of tax on there. So, part of the planning we talk about, CRs, many times people come to us in their maybe 80s or 90s and say, hey, I'm at a point I don't need any of what you're doing. Well, you might not necessarily need it, but if you care about your inheritance and your kids and grandkids and whoever you may be leaving this money to, they may really need you to do some appropriate planning now so you're not leaving them with a bunch of time bombs when you start transferring those assets once you pass away.
Dave, that is such great advice. And I wish we could dive into more of these questions because I've got a lot of questions for you, but I know we're on a time crunch. In fact, we're just almost halfway through. And I want to remind everyone, if you are here live, go ahead and get your questions in on Facebook or YouTube. Or again, if you don't feel comfortable with that, you can always leave us a new question at retirementriskadvisors.com/questions. All right, Dave, let's continue on here. Are high income individuals evaluated each year if their income changes?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about this earlier. Remember, for these IRMA adjustments for Part B and D premiums, so you're going to pay for Medicare. You're going to have that looked at every year, and your premiums go up or down based upon that 2-year previous years of earnings.
All right, Dave. My next one here, are Medicare premiums change or are they fixed for life?
They change every year. So this year we're getting a reduction. We got a 3% reduction down for 2023. Now for 2022, we're at $170.10. Now we're at $164 and I believe 90 cents. So we do have some reductions that have recently happened. Generally, they go up each year. We would expect to see that in the future. But what had happened is for this year, why it's going down, even with all the high inflation, they had included a Alzheimer's drug that they thought was going to cost substantially more than it did. And because it didn't, they were able to reduce those premiums for those who are inside the program now.
All right, let's jump down to our next question here, Dave. For 2023, is the Part B Medicare premium decreasing too?
Yes, so that's what we just talked about, and yes, it is. It's going down. So be grateful and excited that that's happening as you look at across the board and what's going to go on with your premiums there.
Dave, do you see this normally going down like this? Is this something new?
No, not at all, because generally we have inflation. Now, right now, even though we have high inflation, we've got this going down. And if you look at it from a long-term side of things, you would say, okay, is this really financially responsible when we've got all this increasing debt that we're going to do this? The problem is, and the issue that we need to remember with Part B, there's no trust fund. So there's really not a good solid accountability of what problems are we going to have in the future. Whereas Part A, the free part that you get, there's a trust fund, there's a report that's issued every year saying, hey, by 2028, we're going broke. We're not going to have any money in here. We need to start figuring out how to put more money in the coffers. That's not happening with Parts B and D. And so you're seeing some of these adjustments that from an individual fiscal responsibility standpoint, I would say this is not a good thing. Now, from a political, does it look nice to the country and every retiree that just got a little bit money put back in their paycheck? Yeah, it looks really good to me today, but probably not the best answer for your long-term retirement.
All right, Dave, let's jump down to James's question. Are the income levels for Medicare premiums based on federal gross income or taxable income or the adjusted gross income?
Yeah, so it's modified adjusted gross income, which in generally is for most people their AGI. That's what's going to be used. There are some other miscellaneous items, and I'm not even sure of all of those because there's 4 or 5 different unique ones most people never have that could affect that. But for most of you, AGI is the one you're going to use to guide whether your premiums will go up or not.
Okay. All right, Dave, my next one here for Mark. Why would inheritance impact Medicare premiums if it is not subject to income tax?
Yeah, because remember, Mark, when we look at this, and again, understand too, and I guess this was maybe where this misconception was, and the question was asked before. If it's a non-taxable inheritance, no, it's not affecting you. But remember, we've got the taxable inheritances, we've got the IRAs, we've got the other types of assets that may be coming in that you're going to have to pay taxes on. That is the part that's going to be affecting you. So apologize if there's some misconception there. No, if you end up getting a life insurance policy, or if you end up getting a piece of real estate or your parents' home or whatever the case may be, that's a non-taxable transaction, that is not going to affect you at all. It's just those taxable inheritances.
Perfect. And Deb, I just want to take a break real quick. I want to see if I can get this on the screen here. I do want to let everyone know that we also have our flagship webinar because this is our main webinar, Dave, that we absolutely love. It's 2 hours, does qualify for 2 CPEs. And the next one we have is, looks like it's Wednesday, November 30th at 3 p.m. Central. Dave, tell me why this webinar is so important.
Yeah, I could teach this webinar 7 days a week because even though I've gone through it, hundreds, if not thousands of times myself at this point, I realize it's the foundation of what people really need to get to a safe and secure retirement. We go over so many things that other advisors don't talk about. We cover areas that you've maybe not thought about yourself, and then we provide solutions. We give you opportunities to get yourself where you need to be, and that's what makes it so special.
And Dave, I just want to remind everyone that if you want to go ahead and check this out, you can always just go over to retirementriskadvisors.com/safe. And this will help you get signed up for that webinar. So we encourage you again, it's November 30th. It's a Wednesday at 3 o'clock. All right, Dave. Well, thanks for letting me squeeze that in for a moment there. And let me get back over to my next question that I have on here. What 2 qualifying items were not discussed during the webinar for IRMA?
Good question. I'm not quite sure what they're looking at here, what they were hoping that we would have covered. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to be of any help to you on this question. If you're here, you can ask more details, but I'm not going to be able to help you with this.
And Dave, I was hoping they are here so we could do a little follow up with that. I just wanted to see if we could get that thrown in there. All right, let's get back over. Is changing from an advanced plan back to regular Medicare difficult or vice versa?
Yeah, so to original Medicare and to an Advantage plan, no. The problem is it's very difficult with Medigap plans. Medigap plans are very unique because the way they're structured, they've got a 6-month window when you initially sign up for Part B Medicare to get into one of these plans, and therefore, if you've got pre-existing conditions, if you've got other health problems, you go from a Medicare Advantage back to original Medicare, and then want to get on a Medigap plan, you may not be able to get what you once had or get what you're hoping is available for you, or it may cost you substantially more than what you're wanting to pay. So, yes, you kind of really need to be very careful in picking what the path you're going and make sure you stick with it. And especially regarding Medigap, Medicare Advantage, not such an issue. But if you do need Medigap insurance, pick wisely, because if you go off of a plan, you may never get it back again.
Oh, very well said. All right, Dave, let's get back to our questions here. I plan to live in Canada for 2 years. Can I stop Medicare Part B premiums while out of the country?
You can, but like many things, just because we can, you probably shouldn't. The biggest reason being, if you do, you're going to have a 20%, because you're going to be off of it for 2 years, 10% per year. You're going to have a 20% penalty for the rest of your lifetime. So the little bit of money you save for the 2 years by not making those premiums could end up costing you substantially more than that, depending on your age and how much retirement you have left over the rest of your life, because you made that decision to stop that coverage.
All right. Thank you so much, Dave. Let's jump back over. Any chance the IRS will change the dollar taxation of Social Security when someone filed married filing separate?
Yeah, we're not seeing a lot of proposed changes happening right there. I guess anything could happen, but it's not on anyone's radar at this point to make any of those changes.
All right. Let me get my next one here, Dave. Like I said, I've got so many questions. I know you probably need to breathe here for a
And
second.
let me just make sure that everyone understands what they're talking about there. So when we talk about, there's provisional income thresholds where most of us end up hitting certain levels. A single individual, it's 25,000. If it's above there, we start paying tax on Social Security. As a married couple, it's 32,000. As a married filing separate, it's zero. Just what they say, at $1 you start paying. So many people that we've seen it back, especially during working lives, many people try to file separate or do things for tax purposes. All of a sudden you get in retirement, some of these laws are going to kill you if you're not aware of them from a tax side.
Yeah. All right, Dave. Well, what's the disadvantage to Medicare Advantage plans if they often cost less and provide coverage original Medicare doesn't?
Yeah, great question when you look at it. So there's a couple of big issues that we have. Number one is they're geographically based. So if you're on original Medicare and you have a medical issue, you can go see any doctor in the country, any specialist, go to any hospital that accepts Medicare. You have to be in their geographical area that they cover to be able to be covered under the plan. The second one that's equally as bad, you can only see doctors that they've contracted with. So if you end up having a doctor even in your area that typically accepts Medicare, but they don't accept your medical care advantage coverage, you're not going to get any benefits off of that. So really, it's just your freedom to choose that gets taken away. Now, for many people, again, I was on Medicare Advantage plan for a period of time because my kidney transplant, I couldn't get a Medigap plan, and it worked okay for me. I was generally happy with what it offered. And for most of you, probably going to be the same with your Advantage plan. But I knew that it was very critical that if I had doctors I wanted to see, they better be in the plan, or the cost of that was going to be pretty prohibitive.
And Dave, just to follow up or close to this question here. So if the Medicare Advantage plan drops you, will you automatically have original Medicare or can they deny you?
Yeah, so you can end up getting signed up. So generally what's going to happen is not necessarily they're dropping you beyond the fact that they may limit their coverage area. And so I guess in theory, they're dropping you, not in the sense of saying, hey, I've got a Medicare Advantage plan and my health's so bad, now all of a sudden they're going to kick me to the curb. It's coming down to what do we offer? And we see this here recently in our area. There's some insurance company who said, look, we're no longer insuring in Tennessee. We're just not going to have that coverage. So if that happens, yes, you have the opportunity to get onto another Medicare Advantage plan, or you would have an opportunity to go back to traditional Medicare. But again, remember, part of this issue here is if you go back to traditional Medicare, now you got to figure out the gap side, and you may or may not be able to get exactly what you're looking for there.
All right, Dave, let's get over to this question. When I enroll for Medicare at 65, is it both Part A and Part B or only Part A?
Great question. It really depends on what you're doing. For most of us, when we get signed up and we're just applying for Medicare, we're going to get parts A and B. And in fact, if you are on Social Security prior to age 65, they're going to automatically sign you up for Part A and B. But you do have the opportunity to reject Part B, not Part A, if you're already on Social Security. But you also do have the opportunity to only sign up for Part A. What you can't do is you can't go sign up for Part B without Part A. Now, for most of us, there's no reason we would do that anyway because it's free
Yeah.
for 90% of us. But I guess if you're someone who didn't have enough work credits or weren't married or to someone at some point who had enough work credits, and you're having to pay for Part A, you may want to think that you could just get Part B alone. That's not going to happen. You're going to have them both.
And Dave, kind of as we're talking about this, I try to keep these questions close. Am I required to enroll in Medicare at 65 if I'm still working and have healthcare insurance through my job?
No, you're not required because it's considered creditable coverage. But understand if you're with a small employer, you may still want to sign up because it all comes down to how do the two insurance interact. When you've got multiple insurances, you've got a situation where someone's primary insured and someone's secondary. Whoever's primary insured, they're going to be responsible for the majority of your medical bills. Whoever's secondary is going to pick up the difference. Well, if you have a small employer plan, less than 20 employees, when you go on to age 65, from a penalty standpoint, no, you're not going to get anything. But from a coverage standpoint, you're in big trouble if you don't sign up because now, since you didn't sign up for Medicare and you could have, your current plan's going to say, hey, guess what, Joe? Yeah, you had that kidney transplant. You had that heart attack. I know you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars of bills that you thought we were going to pay. We're not responsible for that. That was Medicare. Since you didn't sign up, guess what, Joe? You're going to pay that. And then let us know that $20,000 that's left that you didn't cover out of pocket. We'll go ahead and pick that up once you've paid the rest of this.
Yeah. It's a big decision there.
It is, and it catches people. Now, not a lot of us. Most people right now are on the exchange, but understand too, the exchange is not creditable coverage. And understand once you get age 65, you're not going to get any premium credits for the exchange. So again, no reason you'd sign up, but people just make bad mistakes because unfortunately the government doesn't do a good job of educating us of these traps that could end up costing us tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And Dave, our question here from Christine, can you switch Medigap plans each year or do you have to stay with the same one?
Yeah, so Medigaps, no, you're probably, this is not the way you're going to look at Medigap. Medigap plans, you're going to try to get on the best one you possibly can and hope you can afford it for as long as you live. The problem is they go up and they go down from a pricing standpoint, generally up. And so you're going to have to weigh that out. From a Medicare Advantage standpoint, yes, you can switch every year. And many times people do have to switch multiple times in the retirement because their Advantage plan either stops covering a service that you're desperately needing that's dealing with you. They change their coverage areas, all kinds of things, or premiums are also may go up, which Medicare Advantage plans aren't generally that expensive. But no, Medigap plans are not designed for you to just have the freedom to go back and forth.
All right, Dave, let's see if we can address Ed's question. How does Medigap work?
Yeah, so this is the big difference when we look at it from an overall standpoint and realize that there's various types of Medigap policies that you can get. But let me give you the general overview. So you really have two paths, and the first one is with the original Medicare, which is Part A, hospitalization insurance. You get it for free. Part B, you pay your premium, and that's your traditional health insurance. And then original Medicare also has Part D, which is your prescription drug coverage that is provided by a third party. Well, if you take that path, you have a ton of gaps that you're going to end up potentially being responsible for if you have medical issues. So what happens is people add in a Medigap policy that's very defined on what benefits you can get. They're alphabetically numbered. You pick which policy. Now, they're provided by third-party insurance companies, and so the cost of that can be different based upon the various companies and what they do internally. But it's going to supplement those unpaid bills that original Medicare and your Part D prescription doesn't pay. You will have to deal with all these organizations, meaning you'll get statements from Medicare, you're going to get statements on your Part D, you'll have statements from your GAP plan. So from a paperwork side, unless you're using a broker, which I recommend, you're going to have more paperwork. Medicare Advantage plan rolls all that together. So instead of dealing, I was on Cigna, but instead of dealing with Medicare and dealing maybe with Humana for my drug prescriptions and then dealing with Cigna for my GAP plan, all you're dealing with is Cigna. You are having to pay your Part D or Part B premium, but that money for Part A is getting transferred over. The extra Part B is getting paid to Cigna, and then they're managing all your healthcare needs.
All right, Dave. Well, thank you. Thank you. I've got a whole bunch more questions we didn't get to, but I really appreciate you coming on and doing our rapid Q&A today, especially diving in Social Security and Medicare.
Yeah, you're welcome. I wish we had another hour and a half to be able to go through the rest of these questions. Hopefully, maybe next week we can answer some more and get people further ahead on the knowledge they need for Social Security.
And Dave, I want to remind all those, I put the link on there. It's retirementriskadvisors.com/events. This is where you can find all the webinars that you have coming up through the rest of the year. So for those that are coming on looking to gather more CPE, gather information, but I don't want you to miss, again, that Getting Safely Through webinar, Dave. It's just 2 hours packed of just great retirement information. That'll be next Wednesday on the 30th.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, everyone, Thanksgiving is coming up tomorrow. Please make sure that you enjoy that time with your family, be safe, and be grateful. We have so much going on in our lives that we can be grateful for, even though we may have challenges, even though things may not necessarily always be going the way we want them to. So many things that we can be grateful for the benefits that we have, the country we live in, all the things that we're able to enjoy and have. And please make sure you take that time to be thankful for what you've been given.
Yes, definitely. I always forget these little things, Dave. But again, yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everyone from the Retirement Risk Advisors staff. All of us here, we're so grateful to be able to be on this journey with you as you're going through all the challenges of life, but also working towards a better and secure retirement. We're just grateful that we can be part of this journey with you. And Dave, we're grateful that you're able to jump on and spend 30 minutes with us, because I know you're busy. Your schedule is completely packed, because again, you're meeting with people over and over, but we're just thankful for your time and jumping on with us.
You're welcome.
All right. We'll see you guys all again next Wednesday, 11 a.m. Central Time. And again, if you didn't get your questions, retirementriskadvisors.com/questions, and we'll get those on next week's show or the week after. Everyone have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you next time.